2024 is going to make your fuel more expensive, kitchen appliance discontinued, and your next car into an underpowered estrogen wagon, all through regulation. As according to the American Action Forum, quote, the federal government has published $745 billion in total net costs, with $129 billion in new costs from finalized rules and 250 million hours of net annual paperwork burden increases, with 60.5 million hours incoming for final rules. And that was all for last year. So why should you care, right? You already survived it, your businesses did. Well, because they're on track to do the exact same thing again in 2024, most of which will be signed into rule, not law, by a bunch of people that were never elected, who are not accountable, and have approximately zero skin in the game. Now, in many cases, just like they did with COVID regulations, except little by little, the products or items that you love are getting regulated out of your homes and off the shelves. In some cases, if you're caught using some of those items, you could be fined, and in case of the ATF, maybe even jailed as a felon. So, what's in store for 2024? Well, remember when the New York Times told us that not to worry about regulations on our gas stoves? First, they told us nobody was coming for those stoves. But then, it was a lot of outrage, and then there was this. It's not Biden, it's the states. That's what you should really worry about it. Well, it turns out that was a lie also, like much of the other stuff they say be on CNN, because then they reported this. In fact, there was a federal agency looking into taking them the entire time. They still are, going into 2024, despite the fact that Kamala Harris owns two of them. We took pictures, or she took pictures right in front of them. But what else is dropping this year? Well, I'm sure the people experiencing rolling blackouts and trying to charge their electric cars will be happy to know that there are new proposed limits on pollution from fossil fuel power plants, which make up the vast majority of our electricity nationwide. You gotta wonder, do these bureaucrats think the power just like randomly comes out of the wall? Like it's gotta come from somewhere, right? I don't think they understand that. Oh, don't worry, there's a lot more. New fuel efficiency standards for cars and trucks. They are regulating that it must get 49 miles per gallon. The G-Man coming in there. I am mandating you to discover better technology, Mr. Automaker. And if you can't, we're going to make it so prohibitively expensive for you to produce cars that you will go out of business. That's all the government's doing right now. How dumb are these people? How many of you are familiar with the new Tier 4 diesel regulations out there? Look, this is deeply personal to me. This was another brain trust idea from a bunch of unelected tree huggers. Look, I have a 60 horsepower tractor up at my farm, and by some recent non-law, all these engines were mandated to have this new stupid filter on the exhaust system, but it doesn't actually make it any cleaner. No, of course not. Why? Because it was regulated. Now, this is like no practical application here for any of these dumb policies. With this new Tier 4, every 20 to 30 hours, I have to put it in park and let it run full throttle for sometimes like 20 or 30 minutes while it burns out all the crap in the filter that was originally captured. It just blows it out all over whatever location you're in. And this is all to save the environment. If it gets burned off, it gets burned off either way, except in their new system that was regulated to be installed, I now have to burn additional fuel while I blow all the crud out all over my lawn. Oh, and I can't use the tractor while I'm doing. You see how dumb these regulations are? This is why I hate government, folks. They also have more limits on toxic wastewater from coal-fired power plants. Look, should plants be careful with toxic stuff? Of course. But here's the rub. The same people who are regulating this stuff and making the same ones who make up these ludicrous definitions of what the word toxic actually is. What is the definition of that? Well, some bureaucrat in a bunker is doing that. Case in point, the same type of people behind this are saying that you breathing, exhaling CO2 is causing climate change. Again, not a chemist, I'm not a biologist, but according to ninth grade science, isn't CO2 plant food? It is. Trees, plants, bushes, even plankton and other organisms in our oceans need it to survive, and then they convert it back to breathable air as their byproduct. Weird that nature had figured that all out with no regulation whatsoever. Not last, but maybe one of the most important, the administration also aims to overhaul oil and gas leasing rules. They've been already on this full throttle, but more is coming in 2024. And they're doing this for the environment, Now, the irony in all of these fossil fuel regulations is that Americans still consume the same amount of oil. We just slowed the production here, which means we have to get it from somewhere else or from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that's running out. And then since the Saudis cut production to drive up prices, we're now going to Venezuela to beg for it from them, where it's 4 times dirtier to produce the same barrel of oil. So don't tell me this is about the environment. It's not. We're just exporting our carbon footprint so we can feel good. Look, there's a ton more of these things that don't do anything to protect workers, make life better, do anything safer or cleaner. All they do is put more red tape on the products I need to buy and make them more expensive and make companies endure more hardships to produce them. And for what? In hopes of the farce that we can somehow control the climate? Meanwhile, when Saudi Arabia is burning millions of tires? Come on. My gas stove produces less emissions in its entire lifetime than 1 hour of flight on Air Force One. You think I'm kidding? This is how it works. The government creates approximately 0 jobs. All government jobs are paid for by confiscation of revenue from the private sector. Those don't count. Printing money to give to businesses like we did in COVID is not a thing. If printing money made the economy more prosperous, that's like telling me that printing diplomas would make people smarter. It don't work. It's also ironic that the Biden administration has 3 out of 5 top positions at the business advisory group of the White House. Those are vacant. Look, businesses thrive on lack of government, not new regulations. But the government measures the success of a program by how much money they can throw at it and how much money did they light on fire in the name of said cause. Then they swoop in, try to overregulate you into prosperity. It never works. They, I will say especially Democrats here, have no clue how to make the economy work. And these regulations, they just prove it.